The distress call from the Ventari colony reached Earth at 0300 hours, transmitted across half the galaxy with increasing desperation. This is Ventari Station 7. We are under siege by the Kresh warpacks. Our defenses have failed. Our warriors are dead. We have 300 civilians, mostly younglings. Please, we invoke the Alliance Treaty Article 7. Send anyone. Send help. We have perhaps 6 hours before they breach our final shelter. The Galactic Council convened in emergency session. The Ventari were a peaceful species, intellectuals and artists, completely unprepared for the Kresh's brutal raiding tactics. The nearest military fleet was 2 days away. No one could reach them in time. No one except Earth. Humanity's new quantum-fold transport could make the jump in 4 hours. But Earth's military forces were deployed across 3 sectors, handling the aftermath of the 7th border conflict. The Council's human representative, Ambassador Chun, made the call to Earth Defense Command with grim resignation. We need someone. Anyone qualified. The response came back within minutes. We're sending Sergeant Margaret Eleanor Kowalski, retired. ETA, 4 hours. The Council was baffled. One soldier? A retiree? But there was no time to argue. Margaret Kowalski, age 72, arrived at Ventari Station 7 with 3 hours to spare. She emerged from the transport pod wearing a floral house dress, sensible shoes, and carrying a worn wooden rolling pin that her grandmother had brought from Earth's Poland in 1952. The Ventari shelter commander, Felnax, stared at her in disbelief. The human sent a grandmother? Former Marine Corps gunnery sergeant. Margaret corrected, setting down her cloth shopping bag with a heavy thunk. 3 tours in the Proxima campaign, 2 in the Titan insurgency, and 40 years teaching hand-to-hand combat at Camp Pendleton. Now, show me your defensive positions and tell me everything about these Kresh. Felnax, desperate, complied. The Kresh were pack predators, violent and numerous, but not particularly intelligent. They relied on overwhelming numbers and intimidation. They had never encountered effective resistance from the Ventari. Margaret listened, nodded, and began issuing orders with the calm authority of someone who had spent decades making frightened young Marines into warriors. You've got 300 civilians? Good. I need 50 volunteers, anyone who can follow instructions. I need your industrial replicators, all your cooking oil, your compressed air system access codes, and someone to translate when I start yelling. What followed would be analyzed in military academies for the next century. Margaret taught 50 terrified Ventari civilians the basics of defensive combat in 2 hours. Not advanced tactics, simple, brutal techniques designed to exploit the Kresh's arrogance and pack mentality. She had them prepare the shelter corridors with cooking oil slicks and strategically placed debris. She modified their industrial equipment into improvised weapons. And she baked. My Babsha always said, Margaret explained while kneading dough with the efficiency of decades, that you fight better with something warm in your belly. When the Kresh breached the shelter, they expected cowering prey. Instead, they found corridors designed to break their pack cohesion, forcing them into narrow channels where numbers became a liability. They found terrified but determined Ventari civilians who had learned that fear and courage could coexist. And at every choke point, they found Margaret Kowalski with her rolling pin. The Kresh Warpack leader, a scarred veteran of 100 raids, charged her directly. Margaret sidestepped with the grace of someone who had taught combat movement to thousands of students, brought her rolling pin around in a perfect arc, and caught him across the skull with a crack that echoed through the corridor. I raised 3 boys and ran a dojo. For 40 years, she told the stunned Kresh as he collapsed. You think you're scary? I've faced PDA meetings more intimidating than you. The battle lasted 47 minutes. The Kresh, used to easy prey, broke when they realized their casualties were mounting and the helpless Ventari were actually organized and fighting back. They retreated in confusion, dragging their wounded, unwilling to face the terror of the small, elderly human who moved like death with a wooden stick. Margaret found Felnax in the aftermath, staring at the defended shelter in shock. Your people did well, she told him, pulling fresh bread from her bag. They just needed someone to show them they could fight. Here, eat. You look like you haven't had a proper meal in days. The video of Margaret Kowalski, 72 years old, armed with a rolling pin, standing over an unconscious creche pack leader while distributing fresh bread to traumatized Ventari civilians, became the most-watched piece of media in galactic history. The Galactic Council formally apologized for questioning Earth's choice. The creche added humans to their list of species to avoid entirely. And the Ventari erected a statue in their central plaza, an elderly human woman with a rolling pin and a shopping bag, titled The Guardian. Margaret returned to her home in San Diego, refused all medals except one, an honorary Ventari family adoption certificate from the youngling she had saved. She kept it on her refrigerator next to her grandchildren's drawings. When reporters asked how she felt about becoming a galactic legend, she shrugged. Someone needed help. I was available. That's what you do. Humanity's reputation shifted that day. The galaxy learned that when you ask Earth to send anyone, you might get a marine grandmother with a rolling pin. And that's more than enough.